Hi, I'm Dylighted, and today I'm going to be doing a dual commentary with the USA National Champion himself over a bullet tournament. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, Ian?
Hey there, Dylan. Yep. Yeah, those of you who are fans of the channel might remember me from a recent video. I've been playing Catan for a long time. I've been to the US Championships a few times. I pulled it out earlier last year. I love playing the game, and I'm excited to get to commentary in this video. Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So, this is the finals of a tournament. Specifically, a bullet tournament, where I only have 1 minute per turn, as I've been getting so many comments saying, "Dylighted, you play so slowly." So, I'm challenging myself by entering this tournament where I have to play fast. I'm going in this tournament undercover as LittleTimmy, so my viewers won't recognize me and target me. Make sure to watch the end of the video, because at the very end, one of these players figure out that it's me playing undercover. And I included the audio. Now, before we start, I want to say that I'm going to be doing a giveaway. I'm going to be giving away a brand new set of Traders and Barbarians, which is a Settlers of Catan expansion. To enter this giveaway, all you have to do is be subscribed and comment down below your favorite video and why. This helps me get better feedback so I can make better videos for y'all. I work really hard on these videos, as this was a 7-hour tournament. I have to play in the finals, then I have to commentate it, and then I have to edit the audio, then I have to edit the video. And that all takes a really long time. So, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe, and I want to give you a small little incentive to do so. So thank you. With all that being said, let's get back to the video. So I'm going to be placing in the second position, but first we have black in the first position. So they decided to choose the 8-4-3. What do you think about that first decision?
I would say puzzling is an understatement, if I'm going to be blunt. I don't understand picking the 8-4-3 here. So looking at this board, it's a very balanced board, right? You have a fair bit of everything. You have actually probably the most wheat out of all the resources, but pretty reasonable amounts of wood and brick here, and ore is clearly the rarest resource. So for that reason, if I'm going first, I feel like I need a high impact spot, especially on a balanced board. You need to have, an advantage for going first. And for that reason, I probably would have jumped on the 8 ore, going on the 8, 10, 11, just to have that. And there's so much wheat out there. You're certainly going to get some kind of wheat with the last pick, and hopefully you can work from there.
I certainly agree with you. If I was in the first position, I would actually choose the 8, 10, 11 too.
And having that pick been made, it looks like you were up second.
Yes.
And you chose the 6-9-2 on the upper side of the board, which is an interesting choice. I think what you're going for here is, now that it's funny how things change, right? With one choice, with the black player having taken the 8 wood spot, there's actually a fair number of good ore spots left. And your thought is probably that if you grab the really good sheep and wheat here, not to mention you have access to the wheat port, that you'll be able to get some good ore on the way back.
Yeah, that's basically it. So even though I just said in the first position, I would choose 8, 10, 11, I decided to actually switch over to the 6-9-2 because of what black did on the 8-4-3. And what this does is it opens up a lot more space on the board, and especially it opens up a lot of strong ore spots. So I thought the 6-9-2 is a very safe and consistent option, because I'm going to be getting at least one of the strong ore spots. Since I'm placing in the second position, I know that there's going to be 4 more settlements right behind me. And if you look at the ore spots, there's 4 strong ore spots for me. There's 1 strong ore spot on the 8-10-11, and there's a second strong ore spot on the 6-4-3. There's a third strong ore spot with the 9-4-10 or 4-5-10. And then there's a last strong ore spot with the 8-11-12. The 8-11-12 is probably the weakest ore spot, but I'm very confident that it's probably going to be open for me.
Right. And just going back to the first placement again, so my main issue with it is that I understand it's the best wood that's available, but there isn't, currently that player has very little brick to go with it. So, I guess hopes here are pinned on getting on that sheep port with the 5 brick, and that will accelerate a fair bit. But to get there, you're going to need some brick, and I don't know what brick spots are going to be free after this. So it's going to take some work just to get to that sheep port, and even when you've added that, you're probably going to be kind of cornered in that side of the board. So I don't know. We'll see how it works out. Certainly anybody has a chance to win any game of Catan after the placements. Yeah,
for sure. Adding on to my 2-6-9 settlement, I was also thinking that because there's 2 strong ore spots, there's a strong chance that someone's going to be taking the strong wheat sheep at the very bottom, the 9-5, And what that does is it actually opens up one of the strong ore spots. So I think I'm going to at least be getting some type of 8, 10, 11, 4, 5, 10, or 6, 4, 3. And if I don't get that, then I'm still left with a strong out of the 8, 11, 12. And because I have so many options just by choosing the 6, 9, 2, I decide to actually choose the strong wheat sheep over the strong ore in this scenario, because there's extra space on the board and it gives me more flexibility.
Right, and the wheat port is definitely a thing because there's so much wheat on this board, no doubt. And so the third placement has gone, and green went ahead and placed on the 4, 5, 10, which is an interesting choice. I guess I think it's a pretty good choice because there's certainly plenty of wheat still out there. There's wheat all over the place. So the 4, as far as that, like the 4, 9, 10 versus the 4, 5, 10, I can see choosing that. And the 5 brick is the best brick in the game. So it's nice to have that rarer resource. And as far as where green is hoping to get next time, the sheep spots are going to dry up, but, it's, if there's a resource you could live without for the most part, it's sheep. So he's probably thinking that he's going to get on one of the wheat spots out there, maybe even near the bottom or somewhere around the middle.
I think the 4, 5, 10 isn't a bad choice, and they're prioritizing stronger wood brick at the sacrifice of a little bit of ore. And I think if you're going to try to take stronger wood brick, one of the biggest things that I like to look for is, do you have enough space to try and win longest road? And if that question is no, then personally I like to avoid taking strong wood brick, since I think that's one of the biggest considerations that people don't think about. Do you have enough space to win longest road?
Yeah, and I was just looking again at the board, and now I'm wondering, why not just take the 8 or 10, 11, given you're so likely to get really good wheat on the way back, and you're still getting brick wood. Admittedly, like, it's a little bit worse, but wouldn't you rather have that strong ore to go with the strong wheat you're going to get with your next placement?
For sure, I think that too. Especially since if you go on the 8, 10, 11, if you do look at the strong wheat options, you can either get something like the 9, 4, 10, 6, 4, 3, and there's also the 8, 5. And that feels a lot more consistent, since I think the most likely option you're probably going to be getting is something like the 8, 5 or 6, 4, 3. And with the 8, 5, since that's almost always going to be open, you're going to be able to, you're pointed towards a wood port, and you're also going to be on strong wheat, so you can still play or wheat sheep using the wood port over there.
Right, and it's something that green or a player in this spot always has to remember is, in choosing the 4, 5, 10, not choosing the 8, 10, 11 has consequences, because for the red player who's going fourth, they're now likely to get, the 5, 9 wheat sheep in the bottom of the map and pair it with the 8, 10, 11, which is just extremely strong. Yeah. And, so as a green player, where are you going to go second that you feel you now have a better pair of settlements than that? And I just don't, I don't know how likely that is.
For sure. I also think that by taking the 4, 5, 10 and leaving the 8, 10, 11 and the 9, 5 for the fourth player, you're leaving them with a very, very strong killer setup.
And so now we can see where red is going to place their settlements. It looks like the first one, as we predicted, is going on the 5, 9, 5 wheat, 9 sheep, and the second one, 8, 10, 11. And I have to imagine that this is the red player. It didn't take a long time to think about that one.
Yeah, for sure. I actually know the red player myself. Red right here, they are in the top 100 in Catan universe, and they're consistently one of the strongest players I know, and they always perform pretty well in tournaments. So I fear red getting that monster setup, and I know that this is going to be a tough game to win.
I think so too, because they not only do they have great or wheat sheep, but they also have just enough wood brick, and they're starting the game with a road that they're not kind of shut out of that. Whereas for you, you're probably going to get some ore, but you're not going to have any roads to go with it. And not that you're dead in the water, but they're just going to be sort of similar to what you have, but a little better. For
sure. I think for me, well, we'll see.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, right? So yeah. I'm very curious as to what the green player is going to do in this spot. So again, maybe just 6, 4, 3 in the middle. Maybe, I'm not really sure what their play is at this point. Again, 6, 4, 3. Maybe they kind of try to connect and do the road as you were talking. But I mean, one nice thing if you double up on the 4 or is that it's not a spot that people like to robber. it's just, a 4, but when it does hit, you roll a couple 4s and you can drop a city pretty quick. Then again, I mean, green could go somewhere else, and look at that. They chose to go on the 5-8 down in the corner. And this kind of, you were talking about if you're going to go for the better wood and brick, you want to give yourself space to place, and and that's not really there. Yeah.
I think in green's position, I probably would have taken a defensive 3-4-6 or 6-4-2. And the reason why I would do that as green is because you not only secure yourself a strong wheat spot, you secure yourself the strong ore, and like you said, that ore is not as likely to be blocked. And I think the bigger issue is that if you go in the 8-5, you're not going to have enough space to try and fight and win longest road this way. And in addition to that, by taking the 6-4-3, you take away that spot from me, since I am very happy to have the 6-4-3 over here.
That's interesting. So what were your thoughts on going there over the 8-11-12?
I decided to place on the 6-4-3 because I thought that I'd be able to trade for wood and bricks with these players and to get on the 6-3 even faster. Obviously, with the setup on high wheat and getting on the third wheat spot for the 6-3, it's going to be really, really strong for me. But the hardest thing for me to do is to actually get on the strong wheat myself. But because of these placements, I thought that these players would be a little bit more poor at trading, and which is why I decided to place on the 6-4-3.
Well, I think it's going to be tough for you to trade too much because, first of all, you mentioned that every turn only has a minute, right? So it's hard, a little harder to get pull trades off.
For sure.
But you're heavy on wheat, and that's the one thing that everybody has good access to. Right?
Yeah.
And or you only have it on 4. Whenever you get it, you're going to want to keep it. You might be able to trade away some sheep, but it's not that common that people are, green might help you out there. So maybe you can trade away the sheep. But in the early game for a while, you could probably buy a few dev cards and try and get yourself to the wheat port, which, I think there is good late game potential in doing this. And you actually have a decent longest road setup, which is crazy to say because all you have is or wheat sheep, but you've got a lot of space, which I know you like to talk about. Look how well the game broke for the black player. We were, kind of down on that first placement, but, now if they can connect over to the 8-11-12, they're on both 8s and a 6, and, it's a little awkward because they have a fair bit of wood and almost no brick. So I'm curious what they'll prioritize, if they'll try and get on that 5 brick early. But I would think they would want to get the ore.
And I think also what also led to my decision on the 6-4-3 was because I actually played on this board quite a few times. And whenever someone had this setup, the 6-9-2 and the 6-4-3, and they're able to get on the wheat port, it makes it so it's really, really hard to block their wheat, and it makes them almost unblockable, and it allows them to buy the consistent dev cards. And because I had the prior knowledge of playing on this board, everyone did, but I recognize that this setup, if it can connect to the wheat port, then it really takes control over the game, and it's really, really difficult to stop.
Yeah, and I agree. So if you had gone on, let's say the 8-11-12 is the other option, at that point, anywhere you're blocked really stops you, right? If you don't get 9 wheat, you have no wheat. If you don't get the 8 ore, you don't get ore. And right now you have a very balanced setup. And, the appeal of blocking your 6 sheep isn't really that good. I mentioned the 4 ore is probably not going to be a priority. The 6 wheat might be popular, but that doesn't, totally stop your game.
Yes, exactly. I think right there is the biggest thing is the biggest change that I've learned, is that going on direct strong orbit sheep like the 8, 10, 11, and 9, 5, it requires that your numbers actually hit your 8, 9, and 5 just to buy a single development card. But if you're able to have a port and have like a more spread out strategy, then it allows you to buy consistent development cards, and that's what ultimately wins the largest army race. Instead of going on the 8, 11, 12, where I have to rely on the 6, 9, and 8 just for me to get one development card, by getting on the wheat port allows me a lot more flexibility, which is ultimately why I think I chose that setup.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see how the game plays out. For those that didn't see another video on your channel, that you've thrown your support behind colonist.io, and I just wanted to agree with you. I've played on Catan Universe, not as much as you have, but I've certainly experienced as many bugs and issues, and the fact that you can tell when somebody has a victory point drives me absolutely nuts. I can't stand it. So I'm a fan of the Colonist website. I encourage people to give it a try, and and have fun with it.
Wow, yeah. Thanks for saying that, Ian. I totally agree with you. My 3 favorite things about colonist.io is first, how they're very transparent with what they're doing, and they post consistently on the Catan Reddit about their updates on the game. And they have a community feedback forum where they actually listen to the audience, which I really, truly appreciate. My second favorite thing about colonist.io is how you're actually able to spectate the games. I love the ability to do this, since you can actually be involved and watch your friends play. Finally, my favorite thing is how easily you're able to join the game. All you have to do is go on colonist.io and press create, and it's free for everyone. This is why I love colonist.io. How it's free, easy to use, and how quick it is. Thank you colonist.io for sponsoring this video.
I think the black player has some good long-term potential, but I feel like it's going to take a while to get going with only that 3 brick. So I just fear that it's going to be too slow. The green player, I don't really love the way it's kind of very few places to go, and the expansions aren't terribly exciting. I mean, adding a 3-to-1 port to port a bunch of wood, I guess, is something. The red player is and you are probably in the best spot as far as I'm concerned. I mean, red just has all 5 resources, solid numbers, but red doesn't have great expansion opportunities on the board. And once you get that wheat port going, you should be able to out Deb card. So I like your spot going into the game.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and see how this game turns out. So the first roll of the game is a 7 by black. And they decided to place it on the 8 sheep, and they steal from me.
Yeah, the 6 sheep.
The 6 sheep.
I guess they probably wanted the brick that you have in your hand. I don't think there's any question about that.
For sure, especially since their hand is 2 woods and they're on the low brick. However, I think if I was black, I would probably want to block a more impactful spot, such something like the 4 ore. I think blocking the 6 sheep, it doesn't exactly do that much.
Right. Well, some people like to play the numbers. I mean, certainly the odds of rolling a 6 are a lot higher, and that is there isn't much sheep on this board either. But yeah, I probably would lean towards blocking 2 players on a 4 ore in this position, because in the early game, that 6 sheep really isn't doing much for you. And you hit a 7 right off the bat.
Yeah. So where would you block and who would you steal from in this scenario?
Well, I know you had to rush in this tournament, and so I guess I would try and hurry and think the same thing. Like I said, I consider red to be maybe the most threatening here. I'd be tempted to go 5 wheat just because it's greens only wheat. Either that or the 8 ore. Those would be my 2 spots. Oh, you went with the 8 wood, huh?
I think the 5 wheat is probably stronger. I didn't really have that much time to think about it. But the reason why I think I decided to choose that was because I knew that black had 2 woods, right. And I wanted to build the road as soon as possible, since I thought me getting on the wheat port was very impactful.
Yeah, that's
true. So I thought I had a 50-50 shot at getting it. But I think you're right that I probably should have just placed it on the 5 wheat and taken from red.
Actually, no, I mean...
me to do is it allows me to either get the ores from them, or it allows me to break their free road, and which are both great results.
I mean, certainly one of the challenges of us talking over the game as it goes is it's harder for me to follow, what everybody has. When you're sitting down at a game, you're fully focused on their hands. And in this case, I actually know, I totally agree with what you did. Black had 2 wood in their hand. You got unlucky and you didn't get it, but, that seems like the highest priority for you right now.
For sure. Especially since me getting the wheat port is so impactful for my game.
It's really nice for you to see red building a road towards the bottom of the map, because they're kind of starting a race with green. So now they're fighting a little bit, but also red is not threatening your wheat port. And, not like it seems likely they're going to get there, but you just never know what could happen. So
yeah, so black is offering me a brick for wood trade, but I decided to decline. I think what I probably could have done is I probably could have asked for 2 cards over here, offer my brick for a wheat and a wood, and I still think they would have said yes to that, because it would have given them the red. But I was short on time. Well, in general, in this entire tournament, I was very, very rushed and didn't have very much time to think, so I didn't do that trade.
I don't think I would have done that trade, even at a 2-for-1, because in that spot, it just feels like for the black player, it's a huge relief to get to build that road and use it immediately. Whereas for you, now you have a wood, and, how long is it going to be till you get that brick back,
Yeah, that is very true. That is very true. But black, I trade away my brick for the wheat, knowing that black wants the bricks, and that black have extra wheat, and they actually handed me a city. So it's a really, really good trade for me.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, we were just talking about you needing that brick, but, obviously you're going to grab that city and don't look back. And in this case, you're probably going 3, 4, 6. The random brick would be great. The random ore is nice. And if you built the city on the 269 and then you also expanded on the wheat port, that 6 sheep is just a really, big magnet for the robber at that point.
I agree. By doing this, I feel like it spreads me out a lot more, and it makes me a lot harder to block.
I mean, them trading you a city is you're just rolling over these guys at the moment, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think it was not a very wise decision to trade me a city in the second orbit.
Can you remind me? So there's no voice chat in this, was there?
So right here, only Red and I were talking in the voice chat. And I actually know Red, but they didn't actually recognize my voice. Oh. So I was still able to successfully go undercover as LittleTimmy. And they're like, man, this guy sounds familiar.
It's really too bad because, to me, the great thing about Settlers is, how you interact with other players. That's what really sets it apart. To have only 2 people talking in a finals is pretty wonky, but, whatever. And I have to just emphasize again, for those of you who are watching and learning and trying to become a better player, the trade that Black made in this spot, you don't want to make these kinds of trades. Giving somebody else a city so that you can build a road. I know you really want that road, but the acceleration you're handing the other player is absolutely huge. And it's just doing very little for you.
I totally agree with that.
And in fact, that is exactly what happened in my the finals game I played in the US Championships earlier last year. Early on, somebody really wanted to be able to build a road. And I needed a wheat for a city, and he made the trade with me, even though to the protest of one of the other players who smartly jumped in and said, dude, you're going to give him the city. But he really wanted to build that road. And so we made the trade. I dropped a city. He dropped a road, and he fell way behind.
Yes, I remember actually watching that game at the shadow table. And basically everyone at the table was like, no way, they just gave him a city for a road.
So, whenever making trades in Settlers, and trades are Settlers, right? I mean, they are really what make this game great. You always have to think, am I helping myself out as much as I'm helping the other person out? Because getting a small benefit for yourself, but a great benefit for the other person, you just don't want to make those trades.
For sure.
Now, I will say that it's never black and white like that. If you get halfway through the game and one of the players is running away with the game and one of the other players is kind of a dead player, by all means, trade with the dead player, help them out a lot. Even if it's somebody who's maybe close, but you both need to do something to catch up. But, in this sort of position.
Yeah.
And we see Green got a city up as well.
Right now, Cool KP is asking for 2 ores, but giving them the 2 ores is going to give them the city, so there's no way I'm going to take that trade.
Yeah, no.
And I actually, from my development card, I was actually able to get a year plenty, and that is extremely, extremely huge for my own game. It's basically the 2 woods that I need to get on the 6-3, and I already have the 2 bricks in hand, so that is an amazing development card for me.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what you needed to just accelerate your game to the next level. I mean, you're obviously feeling great here. You're at exactly 7 cards. You have a city in hand. What do you think is a bigger priority, dropping that second city or getting the road settlement on the wheat port?
In this scenario, the thing with dropping the city is that it leaves my bricks exposed, and it lets, since I'm going to be at 2 cards and I'm not going to be able to do anything, and then that lets someone be able to steal that last brick from me, and it kills my opportunity at dropping a road and settlement.
I agree. You have wheat coming out of your ears, and if you have a chance to, let's say, trade a wheat for a sheep, and I'm honestly a little surprised you didn't offer that. I don't know if anybody needed it, but you could have offered a stone or a sheep.
I think I definitely should have. I think I definitely should have. I think that I was just trying to play fast, but I think right there, it's a much better opportunity just for me to try and get the settlement. Since now I dropped 2 cities, now in my opinion, everyone has to block me. It's not even a question, especially since I have the development card and have bricks in hand.
I think it's funny that in the chat, Plefon has said, I have never played Catan with 6 spectators. With this game going on your channel, he's going to get way more than that. Sorry, he or she. I don't know. They're going to get way more than that.
Yeah, for sure. And Green drops the second city. and that's really, really big for green also. But I think the biggest issue with green's position is that they're going to be on so much wood, but they don't have necessarily a 3-1 port to use it, or necessarily they don't have the bricks to balance all that wood. Since what's interesting with them on all that wood and brick, they still haven't even dropped a single road.
Mm-hmm. Well, they did build one road, actually. They started heading towards the 9-10.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, it's not like they're very much in this game, right? I mean, with some people roll 7s and they start, blocking you a little more, and they roll a 5 and then a 10, he could just, be expanding as well. So definitely wouldn't count green out. I like your development card potential a little better. But I would not count them out of this game for sure.
What do you think about Red City on the 9-5?
Yeah, that was an interesting choice, especially where, the second city means that for you or the black player, you would think 5 wheat is now a priority robber spot.
For sure. That's what I was thinking too.
And, having extra wheat and sheep in your hand doesn't actually do a lot. I mean, it's not, if we roll a 5 and then a 9 and you have 2 wheat and 2 sheep, it's not like, oh, thank goodness. But if you roll a 10 and then an 11 and you have 2 roads, that's actually a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. Black over here, they hand me 2 sheep and for a wheat, and they buy a development card with that. What do you think about that trade?
It's interesting Black's trading away 2 sheep, since Black hardly ever gets sheep. I guess we had rolled a few 4s. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's definitely helping you out a fair bit, but, I mean, they really wanted to be able to do something with their hand, and, getting a development card is strong. I probably would have stuck to the 1-for-1 if I was the black player, but, who are you to complain? Yeah,
for sure. I especially since I think that I would have taken a 1-for-1 too.
And Year of Plenty does exactly what you wanted it to. You've gotten onto your wheat port, and now you are looking extremely strong.
Yes, I agree. I have like the absolute monster setup, and I think that the chances that I lose this game have significantly dropped because I got that wheat port with the city.
Also, so in the last video you posted, you were in the semifinals of a game, and it didn't work out. I recall watching that other than you having some misclicks on the interface, I think the dice really worked against you in that game. And I was watching, remembering that over and over and over. It was like, you weren't on 8s and it was like 8-8-8-8 and stuff like that. This game, you rolled a 7 early and nobody's rolled a 7 since. And that stuff matters. I mean, dice are not irrelevant in the game of Catan, even though I think how you interact with the players is more important. For sure.
I also think the bigger thing that really, really boosted my game was that Year of Plenty was absolutely massive. And in addition to that early city on the 6-4-3 was so huge too. I think with those two things that it just makes the difficult objectives of my game not difficult. And it allowed me just really, really accelerate way ahead of any of these players.
Right. Yeah, nobody has, the potential to, just get the income and the ability to spend the way they do right now.
Yeah, especially since right here, like the only thing I have to do now is just simply buy dev cards. I really shouldn't be buying a city in this spot ever, because no one's played a single knight yet, and I just have to take largest army right now. And there's strong priority spots for me to block like that 5 wheat down there and that 8 ore.
Yeah, I totally agree that, you've reached the point where if you have a choice of a city or 2 dev cards, it's 2 dev cards.
Yeah, 100%.
Unless you already have 2 VPs and largest army and you're just winning the game.
Yeah.
I mean, as the other players, I'm not really sure what they can do to come back from this.
Well, yeah, especially without rolling any 7s to start blocking me. And even if they do roll like 3 7s in a row and just rob me over and over again, I still have 2 knights, and I'm going to be able to defend myself for quite a while, especially since I'm on such a spread out setup that allows me to buy consistent development cards.
And that's another thing about red building a city on the 9-5 as opposed to the 8-10-11, is as the red player, you have to think, okay, I think other players are accelerating a little faster. What do I have to do to get back in this game? And the answer would be, roll a bunch of 8s, right?
Yes, I agree.
And now they've gotten their second city, so at least they have that going on. But you already have the settlement and the port and 2 dev cards. So yeah, see where it goes from there.
And it's also really interesting is that like every single dev card still helps me out a lot. Like the road bidding is just an instant out for me to like just take the game really early, just by since I'm close enough to connect.
Exactly.
Which is
really
amazing.
That small opportunity to connect your roads is definitely a thing. It'll be interesting to see if green or black even like try to push getting longest road before somebody else can grab it and just run away. It's funny, you see these games where just nobody grabs longest road for the longest time, and then the person who's buying all these dev cards is like, oh, okay, I'll load my 5th road and win.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Or if they bring out the surprise road bidding, and they're able to take it.
See, black has a right idea. They got their first city, they put it right on the 8 ore.
Yeah, and that's a great spot for black, and they're rewarded instantly by the 8 rolling.
And you can see that your numbers have dried up a little bit lately, and other people are starting to kind of catch up with cities, but it's still looking really good for you. I think the only quote unquote problem with your situation is that you're so heavy on 6s that decent chance you have to drop half your hand a couple times before the game's out, unless the luck is with you. For sure.
That is definitely one of the issues in my setup.
And you just have almost no incentive to trade with people. I mean, you would think, of course, you want to make trades, but what are they doing to help you at this point? You don't really care about roads and settlements, and everything you have helps you build cities. I'm sorry, buy dev cards, right?
Yeah, basically, especially since I have a 2-for-1 wheat pour, I can just sort of just buy a bunch of dev cards.
Exactly. Green is doing what they can. Green looks to be in the second best position here. They've probably can grab longest road, but they're limited in that they have no sheep and they only have the 4 ore, so it's just going to be tough to get to 10.
I think Green's best option right here is to be able to they probably have to try and sneak longest road. But let's talk about red. They just monopolied wheat, and their 8s have hit quite a few times, so they dropped a settlement and a city on the 3-1
Yeah,
port.
huge turn for red right there, right? So now they're on the 3-1 port. They have great ore, wheat, and sheep. So, you might want to use a knight and just slow that 5 wheat down, even though the robber's not on you at this point. Because you don't want red to get in the dev card business.
Yeah, for sure. I think I should have considered that option a little bit more.
Of course, as long as you roll 6s and 9s and no 7s, you're still going to be in great shape, and that's what we see here.
Yeah.
And look at that. I mean, that's great. You got a victory point right there. You've got army on the way, so, you're really only a VP away in a city from winning.
Yeah, I also have the outs through road bidding, or rolling a 3 and then like a 6, since that allows me to take longest road there also. I end up deciding to play that aggressive knight and actually block the 5 wheat.
That was smart. And I'm sure in your mind you were thinking if I get a wheat, I could buy another dev card. So that was a factor right there. But either way, I think it was smart to block that spot.
Yeah, I also think another thing that factored into my decision was that I got a 3rd knight, and basically I thought that had at least when I have 2 knights and when I still have 2 knights unplayed, that I'm still going to have strong defense, especially since I have such a consistent development card setup.
Yeah, and that 8 wood is just not that important a spot anymore. I mean, you can concede that green's going to get longest road and you don't really care about it. Still people trying to trade bricks. And, this is the strength of your setup is like, who cares about bricks, right?
Yeah, exactly. If anything, the bricks are a dead card until I can try to backdoor longest road to win the game. Well, they're not necessarily dead. I can still trade away the bricks. But if anything, they're relatively, in terms of usage for me, they're relatively not useful.
Oh, wow. And a 3 hits. That's nice for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining about my cards hitting. So 5 rolled and red's wheat is blocked, and I'm very, very grateful that I blocked that since they've had a lot of 8s before that, and they also rolled sheep. And by blocking the 5 wheat, it disallows them to buy development cards, which I'm really, really grateful for that.
And, people are going to offer trades and you're going to say, I'm good.
Oh, I actually said yes to that trade. I think the reason... Well, Actually, I don't think that's a very good trade on my end.
Yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's something you really need to be doing right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I really shouldn't have done that trade. I was a little bit
but
impatient
maybe your
on my
thought
end,
was you
for
just
sure.
wanted to get that city down so one more VP wins it, or just like a road settlement.
Yeah, I think that was my thought process too, is that like if I can hold onto my city, right, or if I can just, at this point I already have largest army, and if I can just get another point through, if I can just get another point, then that's sort of nice, since I don't really need to buy development cards when I have 2 knights down already.
I still would buy
they're
2
my
dev
ally.
cards here, and I think that's what you're going to do, right?
Yeah.
You know, you want to get that extra VP, and so that, you know, dropping the city wins it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And the reason, I mean, I don't, you know, we'll see if you buy the second development card. I guess you choose to hold on. I would do it just
I'm
because
considering
when any of your numbers hit, you're going to be over 7 cards. So,
Yeah, I agree. I think that this game was like full of mistakes, since definitely did not have enough time to make all the correct decisions. But I think right there I should have bought a development card right there, just because like any of the dev cards don't really hurt me.
yeah.
Like why exactly am I holding? If I'm trying to hold for a city, then I should have just done it on the turn that I held. So I don't think it really made sense of why I held at all. And exactly, I got punished from that decision instantly right after, as soon as we're talking about it.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I really don't think that there's any reason for me to hold in that scenario. I really should have just bought a development card. Yeah, I also think that it was a pretty bad mistake by me just to hand black a city, since if they do manage to take longest road across the middle, that puts them at 7, and they're on a settlement, and they can build a settlement on the 4 or 5, and that's a 7-point spot and gives them the sheep port. Once again, I have no clue why I decided to just hand red wheat.
You traded a wheat for a brick?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. What the heck? I think I either misclicked or I'm crazy, since
You just rolled a 7 and threw away a brick and kept a wheat, and then immediately traded a wheat for a brick.
Yeah, wait, what am I doing?
That's all right. I mean, this just goes to show, though. Now, I mean, but this is a fair point here. So you're playing in the finals of a tournament, right? And anybody in that spot is going to feel some pressure, some, excitement, some adrenaline. I don't care whether you're playing, any kind of tournament, there's excitement, right? And,
for sure.
When you only have a minute a turn, you're going to make a couple mistakes here and there. It's very difficult when you have to rush through turns to play.
Yeah, but that was a really, really bad mistake, even with that said, though. But yes, thank you for, I guess, cutting me some slack. Yeah, I'm not sure why I stole from green either. I think red, in my opinion, is a little bit bigger of a threat. But I guess I thought that green could build one more road and be at 8, so that's sort of scary.
Yeah, I mean, red only has, looks like one hidden development card, so...
That's true. I think that's why I decided to take... Yeah, actually, I don't think that was a mistake, since at this point, I'm very confident I have largest army locked up. So I think that I can just sort of ignore red at this point and just go after the longest red players, which is green.
And unfortunately, you walked yourself, you screwed yourself again, because you ended up with this hand with 2 or 4 sheep and 2 brick and just nothing to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm forced to hold, and at 8 cards, now at 10, and that's certainly not a very good position to be in, especially with my wheat being blocked.
Although, it's still a spot where if you somehow just build 2 roads, you win, right? I mean, now that you have the 1 victory point, you got 5 on board, and you'll have army.
Yeah, for sure. I have a lot of outs to win.
So I think green's making a mistake by not building a couple roads there. They just have to get it going.
Yeah, for sure. They just need to at least make sure that I can't take longest road. Since if I take largest army, and then next time I could have a road bidding, or just me having 9 cards.
Yeah, I mean, you already have army. You probably have at least 1 victory point. So
yeah.
Although you're still 1 resource away, amazingly.
For sure. But the thing is that there's still quite a few things that I can pluck to ensure I get the win, since there's quite a few woods out there. So right now, I'm remembering on this turn that I'm trying to track who has the woods, or who has the last card I need to try and take longest road in order to close it out.
Yeah, the only thing you well, I guess you don't want wheat and you don't want brick, but yeah, sheep and or wood would win for you.
Yeah, so I have a lot of outs to win this game, or I can just straight up roll it to win too.
And this game, another illustration of the power of development cards. I mean, if you just look at the board itself and don't look at the other stuff, you're all very balanced, right? Everybody's got 2 cities. Everybody's got a couple settlements, and yet you're running away with this game.
Yeah, for sure. Especially after I got the 2 cities and the settlements, I thought I'm in a great position, and I was able to just keep on buying development cards in order to defend myself. So right here, I was tracking who had the woods, and I thought, and I deduced correctly that black had the woods in hand. I think I had a 100% chance to win the game.
Yeah, and
so I was able to go ahead and build the road, and that's the game.
GG's. Well played, sir. Well played.
Overall, though, I still thought I made quite a few mistakes. Admittedly, rewatching this game for the first time, I didn't know I made so many mistakes, and I'm very, very glad that I was able to watch over this game and see my mistakes.
And yet another great thing about Settlers is, no matter how much you've played, no matter how many, tournaments you've played, you can always get better. It's a game that requires constant and analyzing, the current game state and why would you make this trade and how's this person doing. And, I find that when I'm playing a game of Settlers, it's almost like I'm playing for 4 players at once, right? You want to be in the head of all other 3 players because you want to work with them, right? You want them to work with you. And, it's just really challenging to focus on, all at once.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think are some things we can learn from this game, Ian?
Well, in a game where everything was pretty balanced, the power of, having the wheat port to go with the sheep and the wheat was, the sheep and the ore was just, it was clearly the best strategy. Everybody was able to get their cities, get a couple of expansions, but your flexibility in the port and your ability to buy lots of development cards just is what set this apart. We also talked about some of the settlement placements. I still didn't really like the very first placement on the 8 wood. It just didn't seem as high impact on a game with lots of ore, wheat, and sheep. And some of the other choices, leaving better spots for other players. And then also you made the really smart choice, right? That 6-9, because it locked down the wheat port, even though it's like in and of itself, 6 sheep and 9 wheat doesn't do much for you. It teaches you that when you're placing your first settlement, you always want to think to yourself, all right, what spots are available? What do I think the other players are going to do? And what's going to be left for me? And you correctly deduce that you would get a good spot to match what you did.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Dylan. Take care.
But before you go, here's where my viewer confronts me and figure out that it's me going undercover. Enjoy.
So, are you a part of KOC Guild?
No, I'm Dylan. I'm delighted. I'm delighted.
Oh, you are delighted. Oh, sorry, man. I just so you screw me over again. Oh, man, I thought you knew. Did not notice your voice.
That's why
I did not. I did not. I was thinking, it was, this voice was continuously running behind my back of the mind. That what,
Oh, no. I thought you knew who it was.
I have heard them.
That's why I was talking to you so casually with, about Young Nigel and everything.
Yeah, but when you mentioned in Young Naiva, it was oh man, you are the great Dylighted again all over again.
The great Delight, shut up.
Probably I would have knocked out the great Dylighted in my game and it would not have been this.
Would not have happened. No, if you stole from me more, if you stole from me more, then you would have knocked me out. That's why I was so scared. I was like,
it's so deja vu.
Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that little piece of audio. It made me laugh. I'm delighted, and I hope that you're able to learn something. Thank you.